Good morning. We got a new gavel, and it's working very well. Yeah. Today's May 7th, 2024, and this is the Council Subcommittee on Water Issues. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Rusing.
Here.
Member Fruworth.
Here.
And Member Gambogi is excused today.
Okay. Public comment.
We have 4 for specific items, so not for general.
Please read item 3, public comment.
Public comment will be accepted following each agenda item and are limited to 3 minutes. Please complete a comment card and return to the city clerk. Speakers will be called in the order received.
Okay, thank you. Before we get started, I just want to set a few parameters. I see we have a full house for the Water Issues Subcommittee. First of all, this is the Water Issues Subcommittee, and I'm respectfully asking that you limit your comments to water-related issues only. We're here to talk about how much of an allocation we are giving to applicants today. This is only going to be a discussion. No vote will be taken. This won't be we'll take a vote, but it won't be a binding vote. This issue on the QT gas station will be coming before City Council again at the end of the month on May 28th. The voting session starts at 3 o'clock, and that's when you can have a more general discussion, broader discussion. And also I want to remind you that you're located in the county, and your Board of Supervisor representative is Mr. Harry Oberg. And so I suggest that you reach out to him with your concerns, and he would love to help you. And also Board of Supervisor Mary Mallory, a large portion of her district is adjacent and includes Highway 69, and she would be happy to help. Also, you have SIMPO, Central Yavapai Metropolitan Planning Organization. They'll be happy to help you with any concerns as far as other issues that you're having. And then, of course, there's ADOT. But today, we're just going to stick to water and landscaping and toilets and that kind of exciting thing. So thank you. Okay, item 4. Lois?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we move item F regarding water for the 5 acres on Highway 69 to follow approval of the minutes.
Second. All in favor?
Yeehaw.
Aye. So it looks like it passes unanimously.
Madam Chair, I'd like to approve the minutes of April 2nd, 2024.
Does anyone have any comments about the minutes? Concerns? Okay, I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 2-0.
unanimously. Yes, passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to item F, which is moved up now to after item A.
Water service application number WSA 23-063, submitted by Kimley Horn and Associates on behalf of owner Sarti Properties Limited Partnership, location APN 112-05058B.
Good morning, Water Issues Subcommittee.
Morning, Brian.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Brian Reese. I'm the Water Resources Environmental Services manager for this Public Works Department at the City of Prescott. And I'm going to see if we could get If it'd be possible for the IT department, could you move the presentation to the 4F presentation?
Check the side, is it? Yeah, real quick.
Sorry. Perfect. Okay, here we go. Thank you. Okay, so today we have water service application number 28, WSA 23-063 for your review. This is for approximately 5,000 square foot convenience store with fuel canopy. It's located on East State Route 69, adjacent to Prescott Canyons Drive, and is just west of the Lowe's hardware store, as shown on the vicinity map in front of you. The site is currently undeveloped. So a demand analysis was prepared by the applicant for this water service application. They used comparables to other quick trip stores that they have, and came up with a projected water usage for both the store itself and for the landscape area. For the landscape area, we asked them to utilize the Arizona Department of Water Resources recommendation of 1.5 acre foot per acre for landscaping, so we can be consistent with all of our other applications. They provided us the information showing a anticipated usage for the store of about 2.38 acre feet per year, and a proposed usage for the landscaping of about 1.29 acre feet per year. So this total anticipated usage is 3.67 acre feet per year for this project. We have the approved site plan. I believe this is a site plan that was approved through the Planning and Zoning or Board of Adjustment, showing the building and entryway, parking lot. This was in your packet, so I think you had an opportunity to take a look at this. Second plan, this looks like it might have been, I'm not sure if this plan, and I'm not sure if George maybe could help us. It looks like it's the same exact plan, but it was obviously doesn't have the boundary around it. It was shown as page 2 of 2 of the approved site plan package. I don't think there's any difference between this and the first one that I saw. And okay, yeah, so George is nodding in acknowledgement. So we have the approved landscape plan in front of you. My understanding is that this was approved, again, through Board of Adjustment. There may have been a condition on a wall that was needed, and I believe the applicant is here with us today, so if you have any questions based on what the conditions of those approvals were, I think they would be better to answer your questions. So, but we have the landscape plan. And then the last thing we have for you today is that we were asked to kind of see if we could find comparables to other convenience stores in the area. So we put this together. This is based on our water resource management model. It compiles the billing every year so that we could use it for various analysis. And so we came up with these stores here, and as you can see, the range is quite dramatic, just depending on the usage, the size of the store, maybe even the age of the store compared to its whatever the landscaping requirements were at the time that the store was put together. At this point, this project has been approved through Planning and Zoning Commission on February 28th, 2024. It went through and was approved by Board of Adjustment on April 18, 2024. And that's what we have in front of you. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to try to answer.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the applicant for applying to invest in our community. I've patronized QT stores across the state, and I found them clean, safe, well managed, the staff helpful, and they seem to be top notch to me. So it's a quality project. And I also would like to say that I've been out to the site. Last week I walked with Karen. She gave me the tour, comprehensive tour, and that was very helpful. So I do have a few questions. But I believe it might be better, they're kind of technical about the fuel tanks and protecting our water quality. If the engineer or the applicant is here, maybe he can help us out here. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Daniel Chambers. I work for Quick Trip. I'm the real estate project manager for this project, and I office out of 1116 East Broadway Road in Tempe, Arizona.
And your name was Chambers, Mr. Chambers?
Yeah, Daniel, yes.
Daniel, okay. Daniel, as you're well aware, in Chino Valley recently, there was a Circle K that had a failure in their protection system, their safety system, and it leaked, I believe, 86,000 gallons of gasoline into the subsurface, probably groundwater area. And when I took the tour of Prescott Canyon Estates, there's a wash immediately between your property and the Lowe's property, and it drains into a beautiful riparian area that meanders through this subdivision. And the subdivision's pretty large. It's 200 homes.
Yeah.
And then it meanders through, and then eventually goes into the Watson Woods area, which we're looking at making a conservation easement. So protecting this area is vital to us, and water quality is in our wheelhouse here. So I'm wondering, I noticed you called this the Xerxes storage tanks. Are you going to have any special underlayment protection for VOCs to prevent them from leaking into the subsurface?
So Xerxes is a tank manufacturer. That's a brand, and that's the tanks that we buy. They're manufactured. It's a double wall fiberglass tank, and in between the double wall there's a brine. So if you ever brined a turkey for Thanksgiving, it's the same thing. It's a saltwater brine, and what that does is if there ever would be a leak in the first tank, that would get into the brine and that would trip sensors, and that would be your first step of that there's an issue. Everything that Quick Trip does is double or triple wall, and actually the fuel piping itself is actually more than triple wall to protect. So that way, if you ever had a penetration in the first layer, you always had multiple layers to go, and then sensors. And the way that we design and set up our fuel systems is so we don't have any sort of catastrophic failures like happened. I can't speak to how other companies operate. I know how we operate and what we do differently than a lot of the industry as far as the tanks and the protection, because I don't want to come up here and have to answer why we had a fuel spill. That is not what I want. So we do what we can to avoid that.
And these are going to be, of course, underground. How far underground are they? And do you have something to protect them, like in a kind of a swimming pool type situation?
So the tanks are buried. It's approximately, you have to dig about 18 feet or so down to put the tank hold area. And what would consist of that is it's filled, you have a dead man, which is just a concrete that the tanks are strapped to, so that way the tanks don't ever float out of the ground, because that would cause a potentially dangerous situation. So the tanks are anchored down, and then it's backfilled with pea gravel and fabric, and then around it there is monitoring systems that monitor if ever there was any sort of free product that would make it past the multiple layers of the tanks. Then it would get sensed before it ever got out into the soil. So it's completely encapsulated, and it's a very redundant system, and it's designed that way intentionally.
Because from what I could tell, the failure at the Circle K leak was the employees kept turning off the alarms. Do these monitor systems, do they go directly to a central, like a
Yes.
security alarm, to a central monitoring
Correct.
facility so that the clerk working just doesn't flip a switch?
Yeah, so if a sensor would ever go off, it is monitored remotely. It's monitored in the what we call our facility services group, and that's our maintenance department that maintains everything and does all the maintenance work. We call them our facility support. So it would get an alarm would be tripped in the store as well as there, as well as corporate. So because of how we design our fuel systems, we don't have fuel tank. To my knowledge, we have not had a fuel tank accident. We have not had something like a release like that happen in any one of our stores. But it is monitored. Multiple people have that to monitor it, just to make sure that you just can't override the system. And I don't believe that the Warren Rogers and the system would let the employees override it, is the way that I understand it, is they can't turn that alarm off.
Okay. And then there was some concern at the location. You know, it is how far from the wash is it? Because it's on the east side, which is along the wash. Was there any discussion as to maybe relocating the tanks away from the wash, or?
So that we can talk about that. What we have shown is a conceptual. We haven't done our final engineering plans on that yet. And if that's something that you guys would like us to look at, that's something that we can look at and consider and put it there, put it potentially in a different location that would still be able to create a safe circulation through the lot. We can absolutely look at that.
Because I know you have big tanker trucks that are going to be coming and going, filling up the storage tanks, and you know you have to have them safely located with the traffic pattern and everything. But just maybe that might be a possibility, located further away from the.
Okay.
From
I got a note that we can look at the fuel tank location on the site.
And Lois, any comments?
Yeah, I have one other question. Thank you for assuring us about your processes. It sounds best in class. However, my question would be, is it possible, have you had experience with putting these tanks into solid granite area? We've had a lot of leaks on some of our sewer and other lines because they mess with granite and get rubbed and have leaks. So do you have that kind of experience? And I liked your plan about pea gravel and all sorts of other things around it, but are you concerned from an engineering standpoint all about this particular location, both in the granite as well as the wash?
No, because when we dig the tank hole, it is larger than the tanks, and that pea gravel will help so that the tank does not rub up against the granite. Because if you were to put the tank directly on the ground or up next to a rock surface, that would create a potential friction, and over time you would have a potential for a leak there. So that's why we keep it enclosed in the pea gravel and is completely compacted in the pea gravel. So that way it doesn't rub up against foreign stuff, and it's got the filter fabric and the cloth and the pea gravel per the per the manufacturer's recommendation on how not to create rubbing friction against the tank. We have installed tanks in granite before. I was part of a project in Kansas City. It was store 178 where they cut it. It was straight down because it was in solid rock. And that store has been operating for over 15 years without an issue. And once again, it goes to how we install it and how we monitor it. Every joint we have sits in a double fiberglass bucket wall. So once again, that's your biggest potential for a leak is anytime you have two pipes come together in a joint. That always increases your chance of risk. So that's why anytime there's a joint in the pipe or anytime there's a churn in the pipe, it sits in a fiberglass sump. Mm-hmm. That sump has the brine, there's pressure sensors in it. One of the things that we always do is the system is constantly back pressuring itself to ensure that there is no leaks. And the system is sensitive enough to, it's less than half of a gallon of leakage, it'll trip an alarm.
Wow, that's impressive.
Very impressive.
I just wanted to tell you, in the past, we've had a problem with contractors will dig a trench and it's full of broken granite.
Yeah.
And then they'll just backfill with the material that they just excavated instead of screening it properly.
No, and we don't allow that. So the screening is very specific on the fuel systems. I can tell you one of the tasks that I've done for Quick Trip is they actually had me build 3 facilities. So I've personally overseen the installation of 3 of these fuel tank systems. And what you have to do is we have to get it screened, and it's a separate report that we require. It's very strenuous on the contractor, and we do that on purpose because we want to know exactly what's in the ground. We want to be able to stand up here and say, if there's not going to be a leak and we're going to do it properly, we want to make sure that that gets translated in the field. So we only use 2 field contractors and one who does 90% of the work. He's been doing quick trip work for over 20 years. He's very well versed in the industry and how he does things. But we want to make sure that we stand behind what we say.
All righty. I think that's about it for me.
I have a question.
Okay, Lois.
Another question. So I'm interested in the fact that your application is for indoor usage 2.38 acre feet,
Correct.
which is significantly greater than any other area benchmark data that we have other than a car wash. So help me understand why Quick Trip needs so much water to run your operation.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So what we did is when we came to here, we have to allocate a certain amount of water, and we wanted to make sure that we were allocating enough. So what we did is we looked at the some of our Phoenix stores that are comparable, and that's how we came up with that demand. A lot of it is going to depend on the volume of the store. So as the water is used when we make soda, when we make the teas, when we make the ice cubes, that's how a lot of that water is used when people use the restrooms and everything. So if the store is not as busy, it will use less water. However, when coming to you guys, I wanted to say what would be the maximum water that we would need, because you guys have to plan and you guys are looking 20, 30 years in the future. I didn't want to give you a little number, then we use more than that, because that starts to mess up your planning and starts to make things more complicated. I wanted to say what would be the worst case scenario, and that's how we derived at that number to make sure that we don't ever exceed that number. We should come in less than that. We have stuff that we're working to try to save water, use less, obviously, but we wanted to make sure that we didn't give you a number that was ever higher. We didn't have a water bill that was ever higher than what we
And
gave
what
you.
kind of water conservation features in plumbing or whatever are you building into this facility? Because conservation's huge up here.
Yeah, no, it's huge everywhere, and I think it's becoming more and more thing as water is becoming more of a issue, just even in the valley and the United States. So just trying to make sure that we're using the most efficient materials possible. The sinks, they all have automatic shutoffs on them so that someone just can't turn a sink on and let it run. We run a lot of smart irrigation meters. And what those are connected into the system in the building. And so if there's water that's just constantly flowing through one of those, it'll trip an alarm again, because that's generally something is wrong, something is broken. If you have a pipe that's just constantly running water, that's not typical. So you can put them in strategic locations throughout the mechanical infrastructure of the store. So that way you can monitor it. If something is atypical, you know about it. Just how we do the irrigation, running using local plants that do really well, that don't need as much water in this area. Obviously, plants we use in Phoenix, we wouldn't want to use up here because they're not the same climate. It's going to use different amount of water. Making sure that we're smart with the water, how we do the irrigation system, putting the bubblers and getting the water deeper down to force the roots to grow deeper so that they need less water to use, just maintaining the facility. One of the things is just maintaining our stores so that there isn't broken water leaks. You don't have drippy hose bibs and everything that you see sometimes. So I think our maintenance program saves a lot of water. Just employee knowledge. One of the things we've been implementing is just teaching clerks about water conservation so that they're conscious of it when they're in a store and how they're using the water. Just simple things like that can go a very long way.
Okay, and then I have a question. How many toilets and urinals are being planned for this facility?
All right. I believe it is three in the women's restroom, and then two urinals in the men's restroom. So total of 5 sit-down toilets and 2 stand-up urinals.
Okay, and they'll all be low flow, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the low-flow toilets. And then
Okay.
I did want to note that the only difference on that site plan is there is some additional landscaping that the board did stipulate on there from what you do see. So I did want to be clear on that. And then there is a wall that was also there that is not shown on that plan.
Yeah. a 6-foot-high masonry
Correct.
split face.
Correct. We have
not cinder
plans
block.
that have that, but they didn't make it in the packet, so I apologize for that. But I did want to be clear that we did add those things on.
Because I've noticed at other QTs, they'll have a nice split face masonry wall.
Typically, when we have a different use up against us, there'll be a wall, yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend stucco or anything like that.
No.
Okay. Moving on to the landscaping. As you know, the lot is very heavily wooded with native vegetation, a lot of scrub, a lot of shrubbery that's pretty much green year-round. And when you do your site prep, your grading, do your building envelope, do you plan on building a bridge across that wash, or is that going to be culverts and then filled in with fill dirt? How do you plan on accessing the Lowe's parking lot?
It'll be a culvert. More than likely, it'll be a culvert that goes across. I think that would be the most efficient way and the least disruptive. Any of the backfilling will have to be a native, like screen material that is recommended by our geotechnical engineer for compaction purposes and structural strength. But it's intended just to be a culvert and then to allow the wash to continue to flow underneath it.
So it's kind of a dirt bridge going across.
But it'll be paved. It'll be
paved on top, but
Yeah.
underneath it's going to be just fill dirt. And are you going to have it structurally engineered so that there's no erosion? Are you going to have
Yes.
concrete, or how?
No,
Is there going to be landscaping around it?
It'll be like it'll be vegetated. I think that's a better way than doing a concrete. You're talking like because those look kind of ugly, the concrete walls. It'll be a vegetated to help with erosion and it will be fully structural designed and stamped by a structural professional.
Okay, and then on the other periphery, when you do your grading, are you going to push the dirt off and cover up the native vegetation, or tear up the native vegetation and then replant? Because, living in Arizona most of my life, I found that leaving the native vegetation is always a better idea than ripping it up and trying to plant something from a nursery.
Yeah. No, one of the things I think that we maintain from the beginning is our intention is not to go past and build anything past of what you see here. So I don't envision having any need to go back there and to tear any of that stuff up. All that stuff will remain as it is in place. One of the stipulations is our footprint is locked where we are, so we can't even in the future, if we can in the future expand back there. And that's not something that we've ever discussed corporately or have any intention of doing. So we will add the landscape buffer as we agreed to and as was stipulated by the Board of Adjustment. That was something that we had actually before the Board of Adjustment stipulated. We had that always in there to create the buffer with the neighbors. So we'll add that in there, and there'll be minimal grading and minimal intrusiveness to get all those plants in that wall put in. But we're not, I mean, you might go a couple feet past that just because of physically working in there. But
So you will try to save as much native vegetation on
Like the back
periphery.
third of the lot minimum.
we're not going to be back there at all. It's very inaccessible, and
That was my next thing was from the previous planning and zoning meetings. You volunteered to leave the north part natural. 'Cause there's a beautiful granite rock outcroppings.
Yeah.
It borders up against someone's home. It's heavily vegetated. It looks very nice, and you're planning on just leaving that. I was going to ask legal, is there any way we could get that in writing? Because I've noticed, nothing personal, but we've had people give presentations before, and we won't get the condition in writing, and then we'll always regret it. Is there any way your legal people can say in writing that this part of the lot is going to be left undisturbed?
Yeah, I mean, we'd be very comfortable saying that our intention is not to touch any, with respect to grading or removing of any vegetation other than what is needed to build the facility that will be restored to an like-kind condition.
Yeah, because I think that'd be good just to get that condition.
And I think we've maintained
condition
that
in writing.
before Planning Commission. We've never talked about doing anything back there.
Yeah, get a legal on it, how many acres and, some mets and bounds so that we know what we're talking about, and just say that you'll not someday expand the store and build another canopy back
But
there.
we can't.
Or something.
So that's already controlled by the Board of Adjustment. And so
Okay.
we can't do anything
Okay.
without going back to the Board of Adjustment.
Yeah.
Like I said, we don't have any intention of
Yeah.
doing that. So
Well, thank you for preserving that, and that helps with the water. But just to get everything in perspective, that 3.67 acre feet a year, we allocate 0.17 acre feet a year to a single family home. So that's actually 21 houses. So are you planning on, like when you hose off like the oil and spilled gas on the tarmac in the driveways, does that just flow off into, the edge of the property? Or do you have plan on having a storm drain, hooking it into the sewer to take care of it?
So the way that I understand state law, that would be illegal to actually to do that. So everything that we do on the site is captured. Any runoff that we would have
Okay.
is captured. And the way that it's designed with the grades and everything, there will be some storm sewer that'll capture everything. And then what we do, because of the nature of what we sell, is we have BMPs, which are best management practices, and they're mechanical devices that are located strategically throughout the site, so that way they would clean. If there ever was product that would get into the storm sewer system, they have to go through this BMP system, and that would filter out and allow the petroleum product to be collected. That's also something that they're serviced once a quarter. I think that's something that's a little bit unique to Quick Trip. We have a service maintenance program on them to make sure that they're in working order, because it doesn't do any good to have them. If they're broken, they won't work. So they're out there all the time making sure that they are working, they are testing them, they are certified. It's a third-party company that helps with that, and that information is reported to the state as well. And we have to maintain our BMPs and stuff with the state, the ADEQ. So,
Well, thank you for, I'm learning so much today. I really appreciate your going in depth and your detail. And when I was researching QT, I saw that it's out of Oklahoma, and it's family owned still. It's not owned by a hedge fund or anything like that.
No, all facilities are corporate owned. We don't do any franchising. The employees we all work there. I guess I own a very small piece of the company myself, so that's my vested interest in making sure this works well and that we don't have problems here. But it was founded in 1958, and it was started in Oklahoma. We expanded to Arizona in 1998, and we have close to 5,000 employees in the state of Arizona. Okay. So.
Well, as you can see, the Lowe's project that went in next door there 20 years ago, I guess we were a little gun shy, because that hill, the scar on the hill, was a lot larger than we had anticipated. And, they took down the hill and then pushed it out and filled in the wash and created a building pad. And there were a lot of problems with that retaining wall, water leaks, artesian springs, and everything. And as you can see, the attempts to revegetate that hill have been dismal failures. I mean, I've been looking at it for 20 years, and things are like 3 feet tall still, even if that tall, So it's just, we just don't want to do that again, learn from our mistakes. So, thank you very much. I think the main thing I want to say is just minimal disturbance of the native vegetation, I think, is always a good idea, and to help prevent an unsightly blemish there on your project anymore.
We agree, and we can put up, if you want help with some assurances, we can put up some construction fencing during construction that is essentially a no-go zone that no one can go past.
I love that idea.
Protect
Thank
the
you.
area.
Yeah, and like I said, the intent is just to only go far enough to build what we need to and what we agreed to build, so we can live up to that commitment. So,
And if you go to your local nursery and you look at the native vegetation, you know, just one little cactus is like $40. So I think it's cost effective to preserve as much as we can. Well, I think that's all I have. Is there anyone else from QT Quick Trip that would like to make some comments that we haven't covered? Brian, do you have any more?
So, Brian, I do have a question for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Appreciate it. So, are you comfortable? No, you can stay right where you are.
Oh, he can
I'm not
come
sure
sit
if the
talk
mic
to
is
us
working.
here.
Whatever you prefer.
Check.
Are you comfortable with this allocation? I'm absolutely comfortable with the landscaping element of it because I think landscaping is critical to this project's success in the community. But are you comfortable with the base 2.38 given the differences with the other worm-related numbers?
Yes, I don't have any issues with how the numbers were generated. Having a conservative value is appreciated from a water management standpoint. And what will happen is through the use of our tools, our water resource management model, that number will actually, over the years, start to converge on the actual number that we're looking at the water use. And then we can use that on an annual basis to project out for our future needs. So yeah, I'm fine with it.
Because I noticed that the Maverick, the new Maverick there on Whipple and Ruth uses 1.72 acre feet.
Yes, 1.72 acre feet. There was an additional irrigation meter that was associated with that project that I think was abandoned in a few years back. I don't have the actual number. So there might have been more water being used at that site at another time. Actually, that's not the Maverick. That was not the Maverick. That was another one of the comparables up there. So no, yes, the Maverick itself, I think, has been using 1.72 since it's been established. So.
Okay, I guess it's time for some public comment.
Karen Monks.
Good morning. My name is Karen Monks. I'm sorry. My name is Karen Monks. I'm the president of the Prescott Canyon Estates HOA at 2280 Prescott Canyon Circle. Prescott Canyon is a quiet 55-plus community located north of Highway 69 and west of Holiday Drive. We have 255 homes and about 400 residents, and 35 acres with creeks, wildlife, and abundant trees and foliage. This water application for a Quick Trip gas station and convenience store is right on the southern end of Prescott Canyon Estates. We are adamantly opposed to this application for 4 reasons. First, the water usage proposed, as you discussed previously, is high for a gas station with a convenience store. The indoor usage is 2.38, the landscaping is 1.29 for a total of 3.67 acre feet per year. Even without the landscaping demand, the indoor usage is high. The water comparison charts show that the most aggressive use so far has been 1.75 acre feet per year for another gas station. The outlier is a 4.87 for a site with a car wash. Given the explosive local building and the persistent drought in the area, we have concerns about the city's ability to be able to supply the area's long-term water needs. Why would you reward a high water demand applicant when another applicant could use less water? Tax revenue and a few jobs are poor trade-offs for long-term water deficits. Second, Quick Trip's plans include many new, mature plants to shield the community from light and noise from Quick Trip, which we appreciate. But part of the site will have natural vegetation that can survive without irrigation, but the developed area does not take advantage of that vegetation, which increases demand. The discussion previously has been on the back half of the property. There's also on the east side of the property a great deal of land that's not going to be, that could be saved as well. Third, when Lowe's built east of the proposed site, the unstable ground caused problems with the Lowe's parking lot and the building. The area has large granite formations with underground springs. This ground is unsuitable for underground gas storage tanks and pipes. And the discussion earlier with Daniel was about the tanks themselves. What about the pipes? The pipes, if the things start moving on this property the way they did on the Lowe's site, I don't care what kind of pipes you've got, we're going to have a problem. So even though he says he's going to use very safe equipment, which I believe, a leak is still probable. The fourth reason is that the Quick Trip location is uphill from our community and the creek that flows through it. I think Councilmember Rusing was surprised when she came to visit to see how many plants we have, how many houses we have. It's very deceptive if you're looking at it from Highway 69. The creek that flows through our property then flows into Granite Creek, into Watson Lake, and then the regional water supply. The wash that meanders through the Quick Trip site flows year-round, and it runs very high during the monsoon season. Runoff, spills, and leaks will pollute the water and deteriorate the environment in Prescott Canyon and beyond. And some of my neighbors will be speaking about these particular issues later. For these reasons, 400 residents respectfully request that you recommend to the City Council that they deny this application for a water service agreement. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Karen. Next.
Lee McKenzie.
Good morning. My name is Lee McKenzie. I live at 2353 Canyon Court in Prescott, and there is a small feeder creek running through Slaughterhouse Gulch and feeding Granite Creek right across the street from my property. I would offer the following. As I know that you are already aware, Granite Creek runs through town through parks and other residential areas. More importantly, it feeds Watson Lake and the Upper Verde watershed. It also contributes to the availability of groundwater in our area. Groundwater is a critical piece of our aquifer and is often contaminated by what the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality classifies as non-point sources of contamination. These non-point sources are primarily carried by rainwater runoff and include man-made pollutants from concrete, cement, and asphalt, which will increase if there is further concrete, cement, and asphalt activity at this site. Additionally, non-point sources include construction, land usage, urbanization, think people and traffic, and destruction of natural landscapes. However, the most common form of groundwater contamination cited by the EPA is leakage from service stations. As of September 2023, the EPA has registered 573,296 unauthorized releases by service stations. These aren't necessarily caused by ruptured tanks. On the contrary, they are caused by leaks, spills, and overfills of the tanks, which must be replenished regularly, increasing the opportunities for spills and overfills. As little as 1 gallon of fuel leakage can introduce contaminants into the groundwater, rendering portions unportable. As one of 6 major creeks in the Upper Verde watershed, the health of Granite Creek plays a critical role in maintaining the viability of the river. The Verde River is the last fully free waterway in the state of Arizona. A study done by the University of Arizona cites this waterway as one of 5 natural resources areas needing protection. Protection of our little creek is crucial to the future health of our water supply. The proposed project sits directly uphill from this little feeder creek. I already see the activities of the results at Lowe's in the form of sludge and debris in the creek, which I visit every day. Any fuel released from this project is going to leach directly downhill into this feeder creek. If a release such as the one which occurred in Chino Valley were to occur at this site, the results would be disastrous, not just for Prescott, but for the Verde River system as well. It would take decades to remediate. As history has shown, Man-made processes and equipment fail. There is no way for Quick Trip to guarantee the safety of their tanks and equipment to avoid compromising this feeder creek. If you are in doubt, think Deepwater Horizon or the 1986 Challenger explosion, just to name a few. There are thousands of other examples of these types of failures. Based on the hazard potential to the most precious resource in our community, I would respectfully request that this application be denied. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Next.
Michael Elder.
Good morning. My name is Michael Calder. I live at 853 Wildflower Drive in Prescott Canyon Estates. And as a resident, I have concerns, but I also, as a career professional, biochemical scientist, I also have some scientific concerns, which I want to bring to your attention. We've all seen, I suppose, the 86,000-gallon spill. I'm sure that all of those people who had concerns about that spill were told that that was unlikely, if even possible. The human error element and the over-promising and under-delivering element is unfortunately ever present, and there is no guarantee that it won't spill. Furthermore, gasoline is one of the dirtiest chemicals there are. It's full of toxic mutagens, carcinogens, chemicals that are nonpolar and will leak into systems and cannot be cleaned up. Things like benzene, naphthalene, hexane, things that are known carcinogens and mutagens. So furthermore, those are very potent dissolvers of gasket material. There is no gasket material in the world that is impervious to dissolution by gasoline. That's a brute fact. Anyone who's ever worked with gasoline stations will tell you that every gasoline station, 100% of them leak gasoline 100% of the time. That's just a brute fact. That's why they have to keep changing the tanks out every few years, because of the leakage. So leakage is guaranteed. The only question is how much and over what period of time and what damage will be done from that. That's the only rational debate. And frankly, if you want to pick a bad location, I don't think you could pick a worse location. All the vulnerabilities are downhill from the gas station. We know how gravity works. And there's a stream right next door to the gas station, which is inviting a channeling right into the community. I don't think you can pick a worse location for inviting a catastrophe. And even if it's a small leak, the fact is you're not going to clean it up. There's no such thing as remediation or cleaning it up. If it's on the surface, sure, you can probably clean most of it up. Once it's in the ground, especially with, cracked and broken up pieces of granite, which is what that geologically is, you're not going to clean it up. It's a permanent contamination, and with all the residents there, there's going to be exposure. That's pretty much a guarantee. So I strongly urge that this location be reconsidered for the gas station. I have no problem with gas stations, but not there. Absolutely. So thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Michael. Next.
Craig Skira.
Hi, good morning. My name is Craig Skira. I live at 2312 Hillside Loop Road in Prescott. Some of the things I'm going to talk about overlap a little bit, and I realize also some of what I'm going to talk about is known to you guys, and it may be a little bit of preaching to the choir. But what I'd like to do is sort of zoom out and show the big picture. I've had over 30 years as a professional licensed environmental engineer, so I have legitimate background with petroleum sites, can attest to what Michael has said as being true and accurate. But what I'm going to talk about specifically, and as you are aware, the toxic chemical PFAS sampling is currently done at the City of Prescott's water production wells. And again, as you know, in 2022, concentrations of these toxic forever chemicals, PFOS and PFOA, were detected in Prescott water production wells. The detection of these toxic chemicals resulted in a Prescott production well being taken out of service due to the contaminant concentrations. What people may not know is that PFASs are used as additives in automotive lubricant oils and hydraulic fluids. So the installation of an automotive fueling station at the proposed location increases the risk of chance of harmful release of PFAS to the Prescott water system. As again has been mentioned, Slaughterhouse Gulch, the Wash, the creek, they flow into Granite Creek and the downstream Watson Woods Riparian Preserve, and ultimately the Watson and Willow reservoirs, which are a significant component of the city water portfolio via recharged recovered surface water from these reservoirs. So in addition to the known risks presented by a petroleum release, as described by Michael, the presence of toxic PFAS in automotive products makes this particular location among the worst locations for a new gas station to be constructed in Prescott due to its proximity to a direct conduit to Prescott's water supply. Per the City of Prescott water management policy, I urge the subcommittee to remain vigilant in assessing and responding to emerging contaminants and continue to conserve and protect the water supply of the City of Prescott by saying no to a gas station at this sensitive location. We urge this subcommittee to make a do not approve recommendation to the City Council regarding the Quick Trip application for water services agreement. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Craig. Next.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments from staff? Okay. I just thank you. Everyone spoke very well and stuck to the topic. I really appreciate that. I agree with their concerns about the possibility of contamination of the wash in the riparian area. You know, it's part of our drainage system, the Gila River. Do you think that there would be any possibility of realistically moving the underground storage tanks further away from the wash? Would help to buffer, because it looks like it's like practically right on the edge there of the wash from the plat maps, I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, we can absolutely look at it and moving it further away. And that would be the next step after this. And then the city council, that would be the next step that we would get into planning and putting the final location of those in there. So we can take a look at that.
And then my other concern was the getting a legal description and something in writing, preserving the north part of the property so that it wouldn't be developed in the future, like for an extension or sold off or something for another parcel, another business.
Okay, so if I'm understanding you correctly, you want a legal description that would encapsulate the area behind the store that couldn't be sold or couldn't be built in.
Yeah, it'll be protected.
Okay.
With your legal department and our legal department have a condition.
I think we can work with staff on that. I think definitely I have a note about the construction fence, and I think if you give that something that can be on our plans, and that way the inspector has enforceability of it, so it's monitored by a third party, not us monitoring it, I think we can absolutely put that on and get that on the plans.
Because I think that would help protect the neighborhood.
Sure.
And it would help with the landscaping, screening issues, and privacy.
Yeah.
And less water use if that's left natural.
Yeah.
Okay. Lois, do you have any comments?
No, I did hear you speaking to one of the public comments we had was about water pipes and coupling, and I did hear you explain how they are also encapsulated.
Correct.
Can you go over that just one more time so everyone else can?
Yeah. So We have to dig a trench, and we mandate a typically wider trench than industry standard to allow more of the pea gravel and native backfill, so that way you don't have something that's jagged and hard that can rub up against the pipe. Anytime there's a transition or a joint, that's the more likely to have any sort of leak in there. In the double wall sumps, all of any joints we have, we specifically actually have our pipes manufactured to be 33 feet in length, when a standard pipe is 22 feet. And the reason we do that is so we can go from MPD to MPD without any joints in there. So that's something that we do that's not typical in
What's an MPD?
Oh, the gas pump.
Thank you.
Multi-product dispenser. So that's something that we do just as to go above and beyond the industry. The pipes, they are completely entrenched in their own backfill material so that they don't move and they don't come into contact with native rock or anything.
These are PVC pipes?
It's a fiberglass pipe. So it's specifically designed to move petroleum product, and the gaskets that we use are designed specifically for petroleum product so they don't corrode and they don't eat away. And also, for the record, we don't change our tanks every few years because the tanks are specifically designed to hold the product that they're holding and to last.
Okay. Well, if there's no more comments, I'd like to make a motion. I move to approve WSA 063 to council with two conditions. Number one, that the applicant looks at safely moving the underground storage tanks further away from the wash on the east side of the property. And number two, we have a condition that legally protects the parcel to the north from further development or disturbance.
Before I vote, I do want to make a comment about the purpose of this committee and what we can and cannot do here. So I hear all of your public comments, but we were advised by our city manager, interim city manager, that the purpose, many of your concerns and questions were basically put to bed when the conditional use permit was granted by the Board of Adjustments. They are a quasi-judiciary body, and their approval is final. So the reality that this site has been selected and it is allowed per planning and zoning, and that's been approved, we pretty much here can just keep to the topic of the water. And unfortunately, we have to apply our current water policy, which we just refreshed and approved some point in March or April. And so given that water policy as written, we really have no other choice than to approve. And so I'm going to second the motion.
Okay. Thank you. Shall we have a vote?
Passes unanimously.
Thank you, everyone.
Daniel, thanks for being so prepared today. I wish all of the applicants who came in here was as prepared as you guys. So really appreciate that you guys came prepared and serious on this issue. Hi. Hi, Leah. Okay, you guys are with the RV.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
We found some more information on like a water study that
All righty, let's move on to item B, if you're ready.
Presentation and discussion regarding the 2025 General Plan Water Resources Element, Part 2.
Okay, subcommittee, thank you again. Brian Reese here again. So on our last WIS meeting, we brought you part 1 for the 2025 General Plan Water Resources Element Review. At that point in time, we gave you some information to look at. It was a basic kind of an outline that we were looking at for the update to the general plan. And kind of emphasizing some of our goals and strategies for those goals. So you were able to give us feedback and recommendations that we hopefully got into the document that was in the agenda packet for this. So I have a little slide presentation, but quite honestly, the general element kind of draft, and it's still a draft, whereas there's opportunity to move things around. We still have to go through it with a fine-tooth comb to look at our various sections and exactly what our wording is. But today I wanted, hopefully you've had a chance to kind of look at that document, and we wanted to get your feedback again at this point in time so we could take it, get it to a higher level of draft, and then we would continue moving it forward through the general plan committee as we move forward in their work. I wanted to make sure that you are aware that the water element section will be in the section that's going to be called the Resiliency and Sustainability section summary. So the water element is embedded in that section. I have a slide that I thought we'd go over just real quick what the other elements in that section were. And then we can move through the water element section on itself, kind of section by section. We have 3 sections in there. It's kind of broken in that respect, and we can talk about any of those sections and get any of your feedback on them. And then afterwards, if you have any general questions or feedback in general, I'd like to take that. So
Before we get started,
yes,
Brian, I'm thrilled to see that we're using the words resiliency and sustainability. Could you kind of describe for us what those mean exactly?
Oh, certainly. So the general plan committee, they take all they get all the credit, and our community development section gets all the credit for putting together the basic or the overlying outline and chapters within the general plan. But it does go very well with the water resources section in terms of resiliency, your ability to react to situations is vital with water resources. So this makes a lot of sense to be in this chapter. When we look at, from a water resource standpoint, we look at our ability and our resiliency as in terms of different scenarios that may develop in terms of population growth, in terms of our infrastructure and what they'll be subject to, emergent contaminants that may be coming around in the future, and then unknowns that we don't have a good handle on right at this point in time. So that resiliency part of it is very important for water resources. Sorry?
Being prepared.
Being prepared and ready to go. And then the sustainability, our water conservation aspect of our water resource program is about the sustainability of our water resources. This is a finite element. We are in a water basin where we have limited different available alternative water supplies to us. So although we want to take advantage of all of our water supplies, use them responsibly, and that's where sustainability comes into place. we have a finite amount of water available to us, and the more sustainable we use that water, the more conservation aspects we use for that water, the longer that resource will last, and the better our quality of life from that will be.
Thank you.
So that resilience and sustainability section in the general element includes the fire department, environmental planning, water quality, lakes, water resources, and climate and energy. And I think it's very easy to see that all of those components go together quite well. So water resources being in there makes a lot of sense.
You know, Brian, in light of the conversation we just had with the community, the discussion of water quality. And so as I was reading this, preparing for this meeting, honestly, the concern I have is, and maybe it's not a water issue as much as it's a land development code issue, in terms of what do we allow upstream from all of our water sources. So whether if DuPont was to build a factory next to our Chino well production field, would we be concerned? Even though it's not our land, would we be concerned? If a gas station was upstream from a feeder stream into Watson Lake, would we be concerned? You're hearing from the community, yes, they are. And so I think it's something for us to consider in the spirit of the general plan, which is where do we want to be 10 plus years from now? The community would like to have more assurance that the city is doing what we can to protect their water quality from an upstream standpoint. And so I think that's, and we talked at the last meeting, I talked about, really wanted to focus I care less about the history in a general plan than I care about the future planning. And I did kind of miss that whole thought process. And I know the general plan committee is going to go there. I know they're going to go there because they've been hearing from the community as well. So that would be one area that, water quality more so than even water resources. But I do think it's a concern that we should be acknowledging and figuring out where are we on these topics and what can we do, either not just ourselves, the city of Prescott, but also interacting with the county or Chino Valley or others who, mines. There's all sorts of things that can be done here in this community we've come to appreciate in the last few months that kind of blow your mind when you think about limited water. So just some feedback to consider.
Definitely. That's what we're looking for, these type of general concepts, and we'll try to go through section by section to make sure that that we're incorporating that sense or that those topics within the text, so that's coming through. Okay, so and then. Like I said, we're broken down in kind of three kind of major sections. Our introduction and our water regulation. This covers a lot of the general plan's statute requirements for the water element section of what we have to address in terms of our water supplies and how they are going to be used to support the growth that will come about based on the general plan itself. So, broke it down into these components to this section was try to give the reader some sense of, again, a little bit of a history background and an understanding of how water works within the city.
You know me, I love to read the text of the policy. Yeah. So I did, and I'll give you some feedback on readability purposes. But okay. If I was going to think about the major things that I saw here in this presentation that I had questions about, you bring up a whole paragraph of talking about private domestic wells. And the growth of them from 4,560 in 1985 up to 12,900 in 2020. And so the question is, you repeat that again later on in the letter, and it's like find the best place to put the point. But I really think the point is, are the exempt wells really the problem to water quantity if they're private citizens, or is it the risk we're all concerned about big major agriculture or other foreign investments coming in that suck up water that Mojave and La Paz and other counties are dealing with? I almost felt like it was a head fake in the very first chapter to be talking about 12,900 exempt wells when really it's us, it's Prescott Valley, and it's the concerns of these other outside forces coming in. So I just wanted to plant those seeds with what are we trying to do in this section, talking about exempt wells.
Well, what we're trying to do with it is we're trying to make sure that it's the aspects of water resources and conservation, sustainability is going to be a active management area level partnership and collaboration. So with that, part of the aspect is the exempt wells. They are they are water users within our active management area, and we need to they're going to be part of the solution. You're right. We are a major water user, and Prescott Valley is a major water user, but I
want to talk about the elephants in the room.
Yep. Yeah.
Not the 12,900 private citizens who are pumping some water for their home use. So I think that's the elephant that everyone's concerned about. It's these outside forces coming in here, or the unmitigated growth of some of the major communities. And I think that's the PRAMA's, what they should be focused on and doing something about. And we're just a part of that. And
the protection of water rights that we talk about in there, and that has a lot to do with the possible other agricultural or other water uses, large water uses that come in. So that's that's squarely on that component of protecting the city's water rights, putting it to beneficial use while we can before those rights are infringed upon by other uses that come in afterwards. So yeah, we'll try to put a fine point on that because that's an important aspect.
I think the citizens expect that the Prescott AMA is doing a little more in that regard with all of the municipalities and the county in terms of protections. So just if you can consider those points in the opening, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Definitely. Any other comments on the opening section we want to go over at this point? Okay. And this is just a brief, again, these are the goals that we've kind of strained down. Again, the goals and the strategies to do them, what we try to do is we try to make them broad enough that we're not having, let's say, 25 or 30 specific strategies that can get confusing, could kind of start to maybe even overlap or in ways contradict each other. So we took the water resources staff took a lot of time to try to see if we can condense these down into goals that are manageable and kind of have a broader understanding of what we're wanting to target over the next 10 years.
Yeah. The only thought I had is you have at strategy 1.1, complete the renewal, which we're in the process of doing. I like to, again, have this thing look 10 plus years out. So it's like complete and maintain, complete the renewal and maintain. Like we need to assure people that we're focused on the future. Thank you.
Thank you. So moving over to the next section is where we talk about our local supplies and our infrastructure. So yeah, we basically provided a basic understanding of the infrastructure that we have available to us, and then moved into our alternative water supply capabilities. At this point, Big Chino Water Ranch is our main alternative supply. So try to give information about the ranch, about the supply, where it stands at this point in time. And then a discussion about the regional water supply planning efforts moving forward, which again, I think that's a pretty big aspect of the general plan. We're in the active management area. There's things that we can do on our own, but all the water users in our area affect each other and affects the groundwater aquifer. So moving forward together is going to be is probably the way we're going to be able to achieve the water goals within the active management area, especially if we want to seriously consider trying to establish policies and programs that work towards trying to get us towards safe yield in the future. So recap of the local and infrastructure goals at this point in time. So protect our local supplies, our potable and non-potable, and their delivery infrastructure. And again, these should encapsulate all of those elements that we just talked about in that section in terms of regional planning and the vital infrastructure and what their needs are.
So just a couple of other points in the paragraphs as I was reading through the fine print here. I think you've done a good job in lots of sections. The one I would love a little stronger wording on is the whole, what we've done with the code changes about ductile iron pipe, and to help the community understand the life expectancy of one method versus the other, and that is replacing plastic pipes strictly for potable water, because I got a lesson from my friends at Public Works that has nothing to do with the other kind. So if you could do a little, as long as we're in the educating mode, I think that helps people see, what we've done and when did that code go into effect, putting the date, because it's a recent development. The other one I had was in the Big Chino Water Ranch. Again, good job trying to get it into 4 or 5 paragraphs. So, yeah. But the only thing I was missing in the bullet points was the discussion about effluent mitigation and recharge. And even though we get into all the costs in the paragraphs, you do not include that we have not yet pursued to including, and we're about to, hopefully, the mitigation and recharge aspect of that project. So I think acknowledging that Council did ask for that, and that we do need to, and that all that's going to do is drive the costs up even higher, I think is important to have here, because that's something the community is going to face in the next 10 years, potentially, is do we want to pursue this ballooning cost? And then the other thing in relation to the Big Chino Water Ranch, I think, again, as a nod to some of our water conservation folks, I think we do have to also mention the proposition about
Proposition 401?
401, thank you. I was, and what that means from a city's point of view and the voters' involvement in making these decisions, that you don't have to worry about the table up here spending that kind of money. So I think for all the new residents that have moved in the last 3 or 4 years, they don't even know about that proposition. And then in the goals, my feedback was, again, this may be the place where we have to, it says protect local supplies, potable and non-potable, and the delivery infrastructure. I'm not sure if it's here or in the next section on future, but we're looking at Big Chino as a strategy or a solution to offset pumping in the Prescott AMA. I do think we have to potentially, again, given the ballooning costs of the Big Chino Water Ranch, I think that may be a place where we also have to develop other potential solutions to import water, and to keep our eyes open. So I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know if that's your strategy or not, but I'm an options analysis kind of gal, so I like to have options.
We'll make sure that the long-term water planning section clearly states that we're looking at all available alternative water supplies or processes to try to work through the future on that. So yeah, I think that would be a great section to put that in. and that's our next section is planning for the future. So we had we're trying to do brief discussions. I already feel like we're the longest section in the resilience and sustainability section already. But
I
good
actually think
points.
they're going to
Good
end up,
points.
from what I've seen being on the other committee, they're going to end up taking some of this as links, especially some of the historical background and references. So I don't think it's going to be quite as long in the abridged version as you anticipate. So don't worry.
Well, good. So, but they're all good points, and we want to make sure that we're hitting important items. So we talked about the water resource management model. It's kind of key to our planning and our future. We talked about water policy in there, so obviously key, and our water conservation program. Try to hit a few of the aspects that show the direction that we're looking at. So advanced metering infrastructure, and then a brief discussion on PFAS.
I have one question about advanced metering because I couldn't remember. The $3 million that we received that you reference here, that's just to get us started.
It is.
Okay.
It
so
is.
it made it seem in the way I read it that, okay, good, we got $3 million, we're done.
No.
And I think you need to just make sure the point that we've got to continue to keep going after grants to expand. Thanks.
Yes, definitely. We'll make sure that point comes loud and clear. Yeah, and then all encapsulated is basically the water resource long-term management plan. So, and I think that's where we really want to start looking at all of our alternatives for alternative water supplies. Look at basically all of our programs and how we're going to be resilient. Also, all of our issues that we face now and those that we can anticipate in the future.
Okay. Brian, I'd like to back up a little bit.
Sure.
Since this is such a comprehensive general plan, we're got to cover all bases. I don't see any mention in here of Salt River Project, and I think it would be helpful to have just a brief kind of overview as to their water rights and how they have to protect the Verde because that protects their flow downstream that they depend on. And people need to realize that we have a cap on how much we can pump from the Little Chino. And we also have a cap on how much we can pump from the Big Chino. And I think we just need to convey that to people that we just can't, start drilling wells if we feel we're running short, endlessly. That for us, it's definitely a finite resource. So I just like to see a mention of a Salt River Project because they're definitely a big player and a partner in all this.
Okay, we'll build that in there.
Hey, one other thing in the paragraph on PFAS and PFAS, since people are very concerned, I was really glad to hear following our last meeting when we were talking about it, and Gwen ended up sending us a follow-up saying that now that the MCLs have been set, that the city, and I think this is important for the public to know, that expert consultant services on treatment options are now being explored, are being funded in the 5-year capital plan, and that treatment could begin as soon as 26, 27. I think that's some additional context to what you have written here that more speaks to what the public wants to hear, which is we're on it like white on rice, okay?
Okay.
So, thanks.
We're kind of running short on time. It's already 11 o'clock, so maybe we can kind of speed this up because
Definitely.
we have other people.
That was really my last section. The strategies are the same ones that you saw at this other time. So yeah, at this point, if there's any other questions, we'd be happy to answer, or we can wrap it up and move on.
And I'd also like to request that we continue with next month's Water Issue Subcommittee. We have this on the agenda again because I still have a lot of questions and comments that I'd like to make, but unfortunately, this is quite a meaty topic, and it's a good thing we only do this once every 10 years. Thank you.
Okay, will do.
should we, given some of the attendees here, the guests, should we move their topics up so we make sure we cover those topics?
You mean the RV park?
Yeah.
Is there anybody here? Are you with the RV park? Okay.
Versus C, let's get going.
Should we move the RV park up and do that next? Switch places? Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Item D, water service application number WSA 24-017, submitted by owner Leah Beck, KLHB, location APN 11506-112E.
Okay, so we have a water service application, WSA 24-017, for your consideration today. This is a 36-unit RV park located off of Iron Springs Road, kind of shown on the map there, just north of Vinyl Street and just west of Williamson Valley Road. So the applicant or demand analysis was prepared, and we utilized a WORM, water resource management model information, to establish a 0.1 acre foot per year rate for each of the RV hookups on this. And this is consistent also with another RV storage area that recently was came through. It did not come through WIS because it was under existing contract, but we try to be consistent with our applications. I've had conversations with the applicant about what their intent for landscape is, and they can come up and speak a little bit. But in the conversations that I had with them, they're going to try to utilize the existing landscaping in the area to as much extent as possible versus trying to put in new irrigated landscape. And they told me that basically using that process, they feel that they're not going to be using very much water at all in terms of landscaping. So we did not include a landscape factor at this point in time on the landscape plan. I didn't see anything that triggered me or for the need to look at it any more at this point in time. So I think also with our 0.1 acre foot established for an RV, I think that gives us some buffer in terms of the water use on here. Units will be coming and going at various times. It assumes a full 100% occupancy rate at all points in time. It also assumes a lot of the bigger units, the bigger RV units. So if they're smaller units, there's so much variation in the water use in an RV park.
Because there's like fifth wheels too.
Exactly.
Pretty
Exactly.
huge.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. In the packet, it says, per the existing 1965 water service agreement for Iron Springs. We didn't get a copy of that agreement. Is that available to us to review? It goes back to 1965. And it just says for Iron Springs. Is that for the whole road, or what does that entail?
The 1965 agreement, and we have a lot of historical agreements with the city of Prescott. They're all different. They all take different interpretations. They were all done at different times. So the Iron Springs agreement was for an area that was deemed or called the Iron Springs area at that point in time. It's a fairly extensive area.
Because it
somewhere
involves
between
the county too. A lot
It
of
does.
area in the county.
It does.
And
Exactly.
This project's in the city limits.
That's correct.
Okay.
This project happens to fall in the city limits and be part of the Iron Springs agreement. A lot of the area is in the county and is out of the is out of the city's service area, or if you will, but. This particular one is in the city, so it gives us opportunities that maybe, or this particular project falls in an area where when the 1965 agreement was maybe more applicable for areas outside the city when they were trying to negotiate water at that point in time.
Because this had to undergo a rezoning, right? It was
Yes.
single family 18, and now it's BG. Business General? Will be. And so that hasn't happened yet? Okay. Okay. So could you explain the process here?
Yeah, I'm sure the other folks in the control room are mad at me for talking from the audience. I'm George Worley. I'm the planning manager for the city. This is before you today as part of a request for rezoning. Your action today, your recommendation today, along with the recommendation in favor of the rezoning from the Planning and Zoning Commission, will be headed to council at some point in the relative near future.
Okay. And I just like to ask, it says the project is entitled to up to, it should be for up to 15 connections based on the agreement for a total of 1.5 acre feet. So we're asking to not honor that agreement, to ignore the agreement, or, because I'm confused. I was looking at the plat, and I've never seen an RV park with absolutely no common area, no amenities, no open space. In fact, we got a letter from a member of the public that resides in an adjacent RV park, and he had a lot of concerns. But mainly, you know, since it's water that will control the density here, the allocation of the water, I'm wondering why we're not honoring this 1965 agreement, which I haven't seen or read, but it says here clearly 15 spaces have been, or what was supposed to be approved.
So we can definitely get you a copy for you to review. Water Resources staff with city legal staff reviewed extensively this contract. These historic agreements can be vague, and we have to make interpretations, and we try to make those interpretations that are fair to to honor the original contract, but also take into account any context for today. What we're asking at this point in time, and I'm sorry this didn't come out clearly in the memo. What we're saying is at this point in time, we believe that the city can provide 1.5 acre feet of water per year per the contract. That's what the obligation of the contract is.
So without the rezoning?
Exact, or without, or just today.
If it was single-family homes?
Yes, whatever use was being associated with the project, the property itself would be entitled to these 15 connections. The connections based on 0.1 acre foot of water would be 1.5 acre feet of water. So what we're asking today from this subcommittee then is that in order for the project to move forward with the number of connections that they're requesting, then the subcommittee out of our water portfolio would provide the additional 2.1 acre feet for the project, and in total. So they would basically be getting 1.5 acre feet through contract, and then this committee would be granting them another 2.1 acre feet, which would support the needs of this particular project.
Because there's a lot of undeveloped land as you go up Iron Springs roads up there by Vista del Sierra or whatever it's called, and Wildwood, and in that area. So I'm worried that we might be setting a precedence if we just add extra water to what was already agreed on, and we're increasing the density. So if we do it for this project, then that's going to set a precedence for the rest of the applicants in the future. They're going to say, oh, we don't have to honor this agreement.
Chairperson Rusing, Assistant City Attorney Chris Rosaire here. I can speak to setting precedent on that. You would not be doing that in a case like this. These are case-by-case bases that we look at. The only thing that we would be required to do at any of those places is follow the contract that's already in place. So whether you approve this or not, there's no precedent set that you need to approve or not approve anything in the future.
Okay, thank you. Lois, do you have any questions, or should we bring
I
up
would
the
love
applicant?
to hear from the applicant
Okay,
about what this
thank you.
project is about. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello. Thanks for your time today. I'm Leah and this is Kevin. A little background, I don't know if you got to see our whole application. Sorry, I don't know if you got to see our entire application, but we both grew up here in Arizona, and I moved to Chino Valley in 1984, and he moved there in 1986, and we were both born in Phoenix. But, so it's home to us. So we've always been looking for a project that we could contribute, something that we believe in, and something that would contribute to the community in a way that kind of represents Prescott. So with regards to water and all those things, is it okay if I tell a little story and then we can, how we came to this project? Is that okay? So many ideas running through our heads. We've been looking for a property for our project for some time, and then when we came across this one, we thought it was really special just because of the landscape. I don't know if there's other pictures you can pull up.
I
It has
actually live not too far away. I
Yeah.
drove past it this weekend just to see what this was. It's
Yeah,
a beautiful piece of land.
Isn't it beautiful? The view of Thumb Butte. And I thought, oh my gosh, even the industrial in front of it are lower. So you have that unobstructed view of Thumb Butte. Next door, the apartment buildings that got put in, there's 26 apartments next door, I think on a smaller parcel plan. And they reinforced their wall with the existing granite mountain that's right there on our property line. And then there's rocks that we're going to utilize throughout the park as well. And then all the trees and everything like that. And we always
Is this going to be resident trailer park, or is this going to be like people that are traveling trailer park?
It'll be more. It'll be more for, like, if, say, there's a professional that comes up here that needs to get going with their new job and they're looking for property still. They have a place to come stay for a month or two or a year if that's what it takes. Just providing, when we have the rodeo downtown, all the hotels, everything's always booked up. It's just another way to have more people come and enjoy what we've always enjoyed up here.
So I'm speaking to earlier Councilwoman Rusin's point about landscaping. If this was a residential park, you'd expect more of that. It sounds like you're not expecting this to be long-term residents, or are you open to that as well?
Yeah, it's mostly going to be, so as an RV park, all those sites, they gave us a minimum of 1,200 square feet per site. Most of our sites are much larger than that. So if you can look, the smallest site is 30 by 40. So that's a 3-car garage width by 40 feet deep. We've camped and traveled. We currently live in a fifth wheel because we're staying and helping our elderly father. So we're comfortable in our little tiny house. So we have experience with it and what we like and don't like when we go travel around. I've stayed at KOAs, we've stayed in the forest, we've stayed in campgrounds, families' properties, for a weekend. So in saying that, so the 30 by 40 is the minimum, but most of our sites, and you can even look down the middle, some are 30 by 80, 30 by 60, 30 by 50, generally the average. A standard fifth wheel is about, we were looking at all the averages, about 9 feet by 30 feet. Or I'm sorry, yes, 9 by 30, so it's about 270 square feet for a fifth wheel. And then you have different variations. You have the Mercedes Sprinter vans, you have RVs, that have the motor coach attached, all varying lengths, but I think that you said the average was about 30 when we continued to look. So they'll have ample space. I know that there was some input from different neighbors kind of making suggestions about what they feel an RV park is or is not. And sometimes there's some negative connotation to RV parks, thinking it could be just this kind of haphazard transient place for people that have kind of rundown mobile homes to stay, versus the ones that what we want and where we stay and experience. We want it. My mom said maybe we should call it an RV resort, so it sounds nicer, than just an RV park. So we have both names set aside. But regardless, we're actually planning to live there and run it ourselves. It's a dream of ours to have our own business as well. So then we have that vision of we want it to be nice. We want it to be kept up. We want to have. We're planning more short-term residents, but we also want to leave it open to seasonal travelers, or like he said, if there's a police officer or a teacher or someone that is trying to get in here and build a home or find a home, then they could stay for a year. But we were going to do month to month just to keep things on the up and up. So if someone is causing problems, like we don't want drugs and alcohol, or drugs and, drunkenness, smoking is not going to be prohibited. We want limits on animals. We're dog lovers and cat lovers, and we have horses and things like that. So obviously we want people to have their pets, but we want it within reason. We have a neighbor currently that their dogs bark incessantly, and we're having trouble with that because we just want some peace and quiet. So we want to provide a park where people want to go, where it's clean and friendly. And,
So in a nutshell, this could be like temporary workforce housing, because fortunately I've heard of many stories where healthcare workers are living out of campers, trailers, RVs at KOA grounds while they work at a hospital or something like that until they can find something more permanent. So this is actually becoming more of a reality, because I know employees will be living in their camper in the employer's parking lot, like up in Flagstaff, which is, very,
I
very...
traveled a travel nurse up
Yeah,
there 2 years ago.
and you see more and more of that, which I don't think is an ideal situation. Let me ask you this. I'm sure you've crunched the numbers. What are the minimum amount of spaces that would be required for you to stay in the black to make a profit?
I think we're pretty close on this number. We kind of average what if it's not full all the time. So if we ran 20, it might be, but the 36 number seems to give it some profitability and to be able to pay someone to be there. And generally we'll need someone 24/7 for maintenance and check in and check out. So we were trying to discuss, is someone going to be working 24 hours a day? Obviously not, but we'll need coverage because people are there all the time and things are happening and people are moving in and out. Our goal is it can be a flex because there's different, what do you want to say, demand. As one of the persons had said, well, you didn't give a good number if there's going to be how many long term. I said, well, it could vary. What if we had 20 people show up that were seasonal snowbirds? He and I, we love being snowbirds and traveling during seasons. So what if 20 want to come back next year, or maybe only 10 the next summer? So that would flex, right? Obviously. We do want to put maybe even in those sites closest to the rock wall on the left of the site plan. There's that air park downtown by the square. So there could be like Airbnbs as a plan to have a few of those. So you have people that don't have trailers, they want to come stay. Like when we just had that mountain bike race, everything was packed. And my friend was just going to come stay the weekend. And she's like, oh gosh, I didn't realize there's a mountain bar. And that would be perfect for her to have another hotel room really for 2 to 4 people.
So you're currently grandfathered in at 1.5 acre feet per year, which guarantees you 15 spaces, but that would not be enough for you to cut a profit.
That would not be enough at all.
Okay.
15 would not.
Just was...
And we've had some difficulty with the numbers because, private companies, we've called many. He's visited, I think, every RV park in the area. The numbers that we got actually were from someone that could get us numbers from Shady Acres, which that's actually a mobile home park. So they use significantly more water than a fifth wheel would. And then they also stated the water usage, and there's probably very old pipes that leak and things like that. So the range was, I think, 150,000 to 367,000 per month usage. So it's not a great example. It's an example. And I've scoured for months and months and tried to get information, even from calling the manufacturers themselves, and they won't provide us an average water usage. We've actually put a water meter on our trailer, and I wash my hair and I condition it and I shave my legs and I do all those things, right? So I use more water and he doesn't have to use as much. But RVs also are limited by their hot water tanks. Average hot water tank is 7 to 10 gallons. So you can't really sit there and take a hour-long shower. And everything on the RV is suitable for being outdoors and being off-grid. So there's low-flow toilet. You flush it yourself. There's no tank. The shower is 2.5 gallons per minute. The sinks are 2.2. So unless you're sitting there really with water usage, just from ours, and I know you can't take it as fact because it's just our numbers, but In the last month, we've only used 206 gallons total. And that's 2 to 3 people. Sometimes we'll have our teenage daughter there on the weekends. So, and I know, again, that's an average, and we're like, that's way under the 90 gallons per site that 3.6 acre. I did fortunately find, and I didn't think to submit it in the last day, but I found a United States, it's a Forest Service water system designers. They went through because they said since the 1970s, they haven't changed the water consumption, average daily flow charts, because they have pipes set up right to provide a certain amount. And they were looking at this going, well, are we still using that amount? Because trailers are bigger now than the 1970s and things like that. And they actually found that they put a day use, and that was with water and sewer connection at 50 gallons per day, which is still significantly less than what the number was that we provided you. And I apologize, we didn't find that.
And I assume
sooner.
you've got a sewer system there that everyone will be
Yes.
hooked up to also.
Yes, so you'll have.
And everyone's going to have a dog. They'll be washing their dogs too. But this is, I know it doesn't have anything to do with water, but the increased density with lack of common area. What are people going to do with their dogs? Usually there's a dog area, a kid area, and I see absolutely no common area because of the high density, and I've just never seen a plat like this before. So I'm thinking maybe we should adjust a few spaces down to allow more open space, common area because you said you're going to have long-term residents there, and they're going to need space for their pets to go walk, some picnic or whatever, if you know what I mean. That's so that there is a nexus between density and how much water that we allocate.
Right. And we have, some areas set aside. I don't think that we threw in that employee parking to the side. I don't know if that's required. So all that side is where that rock, what is that? That's 30 by 1,200.
I saw the common area next to the dumpster.
No,
By
that's just
street?
the frontage. We did a 20-foot setback just to give. That is a
Okay.
little space, but there's a gazebo area that's going to go in, and we'll have like a fire pit area. There's another area
is
on
that-
the end for dogs. By
Is
the
that
rock,
by
yeah. The
so
rock's
you will
kinda-
have a common area
Yes.
there. Okay, because I was concerned. And then you're not going to pave it either. It's
No.
just going to be, gravel?
So like the main road would be like AB, like something very compactable that people can drive on, walk on. And then where the RVs are, we're gonna have some kind of gravel. We don't know exactly what for the gravel for the RVs to sit on. And then, if our RV sits here, you still have 20 feet out your front door for parking, and you'll have places for a table outside to sit, and a little like privacy wall in the corner to divide from the next spot over. So there is quite a bit of room after your RV is sitting there.
Okay. Well,
So we're kind of opting it with this design. We can flex it, but we were opting for more privacy within the sites instead of communal living, because we like to kind of have a big spot. Like there's trees. I know we just kind of put some trees on our site because we have to have our engineer actually mark all those trees so we know which ones we can keep.
You're going to save as many of them
Oh,
as you
yes.
can. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're beautiful.
Yes, that is definitely our goal. And then that helps with the landscaping. But so we were trying to preserve privacy within each site. Like I said, some of the sites are up to 2,400 square feet. And if your mobile or your trailer's only 270 square feet plus maybe 1 or 2 cars, that gives you quite a bit of space to relax and have some trees and shade and,
all
and
righty.
those kind
Well,
of areas.
to kind of make a point, you listened to one of our previous water allocations for the QT, which is 3.67, and that's for a gas station. And you're asking for 3.6, and it's going to provide workforce housing possibly for short-term, sort of as a bridge for people to come and serve in the community. So for me, I think that that's definitely something that would motivate me to support this project where it is. What do you, any comments from you, Lois?
No, all the issues or concerns I had, they've answered. I like the fact that you're operating it and that you're in the community. And I do think the workforce housing element, or flexibility and tourist flexibility, is all good. So I'm good to go.
Okay, Lois, do you want to make a motion, or should I make it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I make a motion that we move to approve forwarding WSA 24-017 to council for approval.
Second.
Okay. I think it's unanimously.
Passes
Okay.
unanimously.
Congratulations and
Thank you.
good luck. And we'll see you at
We're
council.
excited. Thank you.
Okay, we have about a little over half an hour to move on here.
Do you want to go back to C?
I actually prefer to get the business done and go to E next, if that's okay.
The hotel?
Yep.
Okay.
Item E, water service application number WSA 24-010 and site 24-002, submitted by Michael Taylor Architects on behalf of owner YHD 69 OBCH LLC, location APN 103-20004X.
Okay. Are the is there an applicant? Anybody here?
I'm not seeing anybody at this point.
Nobody's here. He was here earlier. Because, if we're going to spend our time discussing this, I probably would have some questions for the applicant. But if the applicant can't even be bothered to be here, especially when they're asking for us to grant them more water, kind of go outside our water budget. So I'd like to make a motion that we postpone this till our next Water Issues Subcommittee meeting in June.
I will second that motion, and I will make the request, so that we don't waste any more time, that while I can project that this project's going to have economic benefit to the city of Prescott, it's my and our fiduciary responsibility to evaluate any water appeal using data-based criteria as outlined in our city water policy. And given this appeal letter was extremely weak, with economic or any business plan, anybody that's going to spend millions of dollars building a hotel has to have an economic business plan of why they're doing this. So those are the kind of criteria we need, and it's outlined in our policy that it should be there. So I was not even going to move this appeal forward if they had been here today. So if we're giving them a month, they should really take advantage of it, and they should come back with a much better job of determining tangible and measurable benefits to the city as outlined in our policy. And then we could consider moving this forward. Thank you.
I just have one more question for Ryan. It says it's a 254-room hotel, and they're requesting 25.4 acre-feet per year, but I don't see any discussion, because I assume a hotel is going to have swimming pools, it's going to have restaurants, and there's nothing discussing that in here either. So I assume that's even going to be for more. But to stay within our non-residential water budget, how many acre feet would they have to, what's the minimum acre feet they would have to request to be in the water budget for this?
Was subject to change by next month because things come in.
Right.
But for the residential,
or non-residential?
for non-residential, right now
total remaining, what I'm gonna give as a budget summary, 21.07. So 50% of that would be approximately 10.5.
2.5. Okay.
And I know you guys at our request had asked, because we were talking about the rollover with the new policy. So do you have some of that information here for us today, or will that be coming by the next time we consider this item?
Well, I think it's really up to this subcommittee what they want to do with the policy. That's your interpretation of the policy. I think it's your guys' policy. You oversee it. So your interpretation as a body, I think, is what's going to stand.
Okay, because I was estimating 12 acre feet a year, to stay within the budget. That would be about 120 units. As I understand, a hotel needs to have at least 100 units to be profitable. For example, over here at the Hilton Garden Inn, that's 99. We're looking at like 109 units for the old City Hall redevelopment. So this is quite an eye-popping number that they wanted, 254 units. So I think we have a lot of discussion, and I would be a lot more comfortable if we delayed it.
And I'm just going to jump in here because a motion has been made in a second. So if we need to vote on that, and then
Okay,
if we're
thank
going to
you.
do that, then we're just going to talk about it next time. So
Okay, all righty.
Let's vote.
Motion, second, let's vote. So yes to postpone it and put it on the next agenda for June.
Passes unanimously to table to the next meeting.
So let's have that
Thank you.
discussion, Kathy, about the rollover, the semi-annual water budget. The way our policy says, and it went into effect March
26th.
26, thank you. The council shall set the water budget semi-annually at its last meeting in June and December of each year. Unallocated residential water, so we did set the January through June budget in December, or maybe it was January, I think.
It was in December.
It was in December. Okay, I missed that meeting. That's
and I
why
think that conversation might fit under section C of today's agenda because we don't
Okay.
want to get off agenda
Oh,
on that.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's move on to section C. I know it's kind of hard. We've been jumping around, so thank you for bearing with us here. Thank you, Chris.
Item C, presentation and discussion regarding amended 2022 water management policy, current residential and non-residential water budget overview for January 1st, 2024 through April 17th, 2024.
Okay, yeah, so per the amended 2022 water management policies, items 11 through 13, they establish a semi-annual budget for residential and non-residential projects. The budget set for January 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2024 for the residential projects was 25 acre feet for that period, and the budget for the non-residential was also set at 25 acre feet for that period. So the first table that we have up here shows the residential projects that were approved between the dates of January 1st, 2024 and April 17th, 2024. That's when we had to cut off for preparation for today's meeting. 3 residential projects were approved. They totaled 0.15 acre feet. And that leaves a remaining residential water budget for this period of 24.49 acre feet.
Okay, and then I have the water policy tracking table, January 1st to June 30th.
So that was from the city website, right? That's through May 1st.
Yeah, and it has 24 homes on it, right, that were approved.
Is possibly looking at the
Water
existing
policy.
contract.
Water policy tracking table. Yeah, these are all existing contracts.
Yes, so that'll be the third table I'm going to. So
Okay.
those are the ones that fall under existing contracts and
Okay.
groundwater
'Cause
subdivisions.
I was confused. We go from 3 to 24.
Yep, yeah, exactly. So
So it's actually 24 is more accurate, is what we've got in the pipeline.
yes, or we have since January. We'll just go right to it. Since January 1st of this year to April 17th, we have. Is it 24? I don't have the number it's not on this particular table, but this table shows all the residential families that were, or single family residents, or any type of project, residential or non-residential, that was approved because it has an existing contract in place.
Administratively approved.
Exactly, and was administratively approved for that reason.
And several of these are out in Chino Valley, too, subdivisions out in Chino
Yes.
Valley, the Molly Ray, and the Mesa View, because people don't realize that we're supplying a large portion of Chino Valley with city water.
With city water, exactly. We have commitments to them through our water service agreements.
And they have sewer, too.
Yes, a lot of them do. I'm not sure if all of them do, to be honest. Some of them might be on septic, but the sewer would go to Chino Valley and not to the city.
And then out of curiosity, on single-family home number 4, it has acre feet per year is 0.25, which is the old allocation. I guess that must be a really, really old subdivision, or we're not updating. We're still using the old allocation. Sometimes I'm confused.
The allocation was probably because it was either in Chino Valley or in unincorporated parts of Yavapai County. We utilize a slightly higher rate still for those areas outside the service area, or outside of our water
service area.
Exactly.
Okay.
So,
And then moving down, I see you have new commercial here, kind of lumped in here, 5.9 acre feet. And it says demand method other. Can you enlighten us as to what project that one is?
So,
I think that's the RV part.
oh, still back on the existing contract. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So the 5.9 is a project I believe called Garage City. I think might have been its old name. It might have another name. This project is out on the north side of town. It's an RV storage area. Yeah, exactly.
That's not the Lux Locker. Is that the Lux Locker by the airport and CP Technologies?
I'll bring
It'd be
George
helpful
up.
if
He's
we
gonna
had
help.
more details on these charts so that we don't have to play guessing
To ask those
games.
questions. The Garage City project is exactly like the Lux Locker project, but at a different location. It's at Willow Lake and 89.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. But as I understand, Lux Locker wasn't going to be residentially occupied. It was just for storage.
That's correct. And
And
so
this one is going to be for
storage only. It's the
storage
same.
only,
It's the same.
but they're going to need 5.9 acre feet of water just to store RVs. Is there going to be washing a lot of RVs there, or what?
There was a development agreement that was put in place back. I'd have to check on the date exactly. I want to say maybe 2021, something of that in that point in time, where it was negotiated out for 5.9 acre feet of water for this particular project. So as it's moving forward and they come through with their plat map, we allocated out the water per existing contract.
Okay. All right. Well, we kind of have to keep a closer eye on these things going forward. This was in 21? 21?
Approximately. Approximately. I think the project's has been around for a while, coming back to life and then going dormant for a while.
Okay, because if it was like 10 or 20 years ago, I could see that. But just 3 years ago, this was negotiated for a storing RVs?
And I can give you some better information.
Are they going to be raising turf
Chairman.
while they're out there?
I don't think so. It does seem like a large water use, and I'll provide you guys with some more information.
They have a splash pad water park. Okay. All righty. Thank you. Moving on.
Okay, so our last table here is our commercial projects. Through the time period of January 1st through April 17th, we had 9 non-residential projects that came through. This table is a little bit different, and I know it's baby steps, but we're working towards getting you better tables with better information. I wanted to put this one on to show you that we're working towards that. It's not the one that matches the one in your packet, and I do apologize for that. But we're making steps forward to try to get these tables with more information on it, so that at a glance you can have an understanding of a project, kind of what it entails, a basic idea of the location. I know that that's important for your time because you don't have a lot. You don't have endless time on this committee. You have a lot of other things. So in this period, there was 9 non-residential projects. All of them were administratively approved under 1.5 acre feet per the new policy. The total came out to 3.6 acres. I want to note that on your memo, it says 3.91, I believe. There was 2 projects that were the same project on the list that's in your memo. It was listed with its engineering permit number and its associated water service application number. So it looked like 2 projects, but it was actually 1 project. So that's your memo has 3.91, which was slightly higher. The actual number is 3.6, as shown on this table. So again, apologize for that, but this one is the more accurate and removes the duplicate project.
I appreciate the more descriptions in your process document you sent us last night that you're working on improving that. The only other thing I have here is my understanding is we don't use the term up in the top title area commercial. We're supposed to say non-residential. So if you can make that change, we have a grand slam home run. Thank you.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, so now can I talk about carryover?
Yes,
I
definitely.
got the wink from the lawyer, so I'm all good.
Yes, you may.
Okay, so I do think, in light of the appeal that we absolutely should project will be back here before us next month, that and the fact that we didn't have that much commercial economic development projects coming before us in 2023, we should have a bunch of carryover. And when we were talking about approving this policy in March at the full city council meeting, several of us were talking about loving this option because it gave us the right to allow projects that are taking a little longer to come before us to finally get approved versus being held up if we didn't do a lot. So the way I read this policy, there is no effective date that you can only unallocate carryover moving forward. It says, may be. It may be rolled over. It doesn't say starting in 2024. So I see no reason from the way this is written that we can't be considering carrying over 2023 allocations into 2024 to help spur economic development plans that come before us in the coming year.
So Brian gave this issue over to us and legal to take a look at to try and make a determination or possibly decide, on how the policy should be reviewed on this. And we determined that it is the council's policy, and so what they determine would be what was intended because it is their policy. So if you and the rest of the council believe that's the way it should be interpreted, then the policy would agree with that.
So it's not use it or lose it. We're going to allow unused water to be rolled over until to the next year.
So I do think it would help for purposes of clearing the pathway for the appeal finally coming forward next month, that maybe this be a topic that gets agendaed on a meeting now in the next few weeks before the appeal comes forward. So we make a decision as a council without an appeal project in front of us. Do we intend for this to be that we will allow carryover? and then then we don't have to have that conversation. We're just going to evaluate the appeal when it finally comes through this committee and forward to the council. So that's my suggestion, is to clear this up with council ASAP.
And that would
based on
probably be the
agenda.
most appropriate way to go about it, since you're acting not as council members on this board right now, but in a separate actual council meeting that you'd be acting as council members.
So if we can get that agendized and before the council with some of the data, Brian, that you put together about the carry forward buckets, that would be great.
Could I ask a question from our city attorney? And I don't know if you have this. I don't want to put you on the spot. In that particular meeting, could they vote to then just reestablish the budget for using some of the carryover from previous years? And at that point, that would be the budget?
They could definitely clarify it however they wish, because again, it's their policy. So if at that point they want to be able to amend it or change it or interpret it in a certain way, they would be able to do something like that.
Okay. The only reason I'm asking is I'm just trying to think this logically through in my head a little bit. So next month we're going to have the hotel will come back with their appeals and give us their presentation and everything else. If at that point the commercial budget had a rollover of, let's say, the last 2 years, it might not be a pill anymore. Is what I'm getting at. If that was approved at a council meeting prior to that, then it wouldn't be an appeal anymore. Or if it could, at that council meeting, I guess I'm trying to determine, they're going to have a discussion about this and have an understanding of it. Is there going to be a vote on whether to proceed with it at that point in time? Do we think? To proceed with in one direction or another? Or is it just going to be an informational type?
Because wasn't this a question when we were approving the amendments to the
Water
2022 water policy? I remember.
Yeah, we
that
had
was a
some discussion
question,
about it.
Use it or lose it or roll it over, and we agreed we were just going to roll it over. That's the way I.
Yeah, no,
Because it was a question of, are we
that's
gonna
how
let
it's in the policy now as a rollover procedure.
Oh, okay.
The only thing that's throwing a little bit of a kind of a tweak in this is that usually in June or December is when we would say, okay, are we going to do 25? Well, we had 21 left over from the last one. This would be the first opportunity. That would have been the first opportunity to say, oh, we had 21 acre feet left over, so we're going to roll that over at this point. We just haven't had that opportunity yet.
Okay.
That's the only thing, the only little obstacle I'm trying to figure out.
It says a rollover of the budget from the previous 6-month period may occur for the 4 budget periods 2 years from the time of policy adoption. So we adopted this at the end of March, and that was the time of policy adoption. So a rollover of the budget from the previous 6-month period, which would have been July through December of 23, is appropriate. I don't know why we have to ask the question again, because we approved this for July through December carry forward.
And
I
again,
still
that's for
think-
if council is in agreement with that interpretation, that is fine.
So we
That
need
is
to come
fine.
up with a number. We need to look back and see if we left anything
And I
on
can
the
come up with
table.
numbers for you. Yeah,
Okay.
I think I
But
kind
I
of did that
believe-
already, but I think we're good.
If you could, because I believe this hotel is going to still be more than 50% of the carryover.
It might be.
And we're still going to have to take this forward to council. But getting all of this clarity before the appeal comes forward, I think is what we absolutely just need to make sure that everyone's aligned. This is the carryover. We're allowed to use it per the adoption. And if we're going to, that actually softens the blow of the appeal.
Okay.
And I just suggest looking at the minutes from when this was brought in, and maybe it addresses that already, and we don't have to move forward with anything else because we already have it from that.
Okay. Good idea.
Would legal do that review for us?
Well, I was suggesting Brian could do it, but I could do it if this
thank you.
body wants.
Okay, both of you come to alignment. I'm
yes,
good
we
with
will.
that.
We'll come to alignment.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I see we got about 15 minutes before noon. So let's move on to our general announcements from staff.
Sure.
I would like to make an announcement.
So, let's see. I'm going to see if we have a slide. Maybe not. Oh, there we go. We had one. Okay, so yeah, we just wanted to announce that the Yavapai County Contractors Home Show will be from Friday to Saturday, May 7th to May 18th, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And on Sunday, May 19th, doors open at 9 a.m. To 3 p.m. So the venue is at the Findlay Toyota Center. And the event is free, open to the public. The city, your water resources management staff will be attending and having a booth set up with information on water conservation and the city's water management in general. Also, community development will be sharing a booth with community development representatives, and they'll be providing information on their behalf. We wanted to make sure everybody was aware of this of this show. It's one of our bigger ones that we have every year. So we'll be attending. We hope to see you. We hope to see you there. So.
Okay, well, thank you, Brian. I also have an announcement. CWAG, Citizen Water Advocacy Group, is going to have a personal physical meeting and a Zoom meeting this Saturday, May 11th. At 9:30. You can go on their website for details, but it's going to be held at the Granite Mountain Universal Unitarian Church behind True Value there. And the topic's going to be regional cooperation for water management. So everyone, if they feel like it, tune in or drop by. Thank you. Anything else? This meeting's adjourned.